Welcome to Aloha Fridays. What's
I'm
up,
good to go.
Skylar?
How's everything going? Today, actually, we have a special guest, another special guest with us, Mr. Rich Benfante, a marriage and family
Aloha.
therapist. What's up? What's
And
up,
mental
buddy?
health specialist.
Mental health specialist, exactly. What's up,
Good to
Rich?
be here, guys. Hello, Skylar. Hello, Chad. It's definitely great to be here. I saw your show a couple of weeks ago off a Facebook feed, and I thought it was just absolutely fantastic. And I contacted Chad and said, "Hey, I'd love to kind of join in and come in from a different angle with mental health and about
Yeah.
self-care."
Oh, and well, that was one of the things we were talking about. I wanted everybody that's watching to kind of understand that this week we're going to kind of focus on mental health and, what's going on surrounding the pandemic and how that all relates to, your life, your love, your business, whatever. And I think Rich will be able to
Absolutely.
talk on that better than us. We're just crazy as it is. So you can help us on that one,
Absolutely.
Rich. But thanks for joining us this week.
I would be delighted. Oh, it's my absolute pleasure, guys. It's great to be here.
So first and foremost, as we were getting started, we were all kind of chatting, and you mentioned about. I think one of the things you kind of talked about is people putting stuff off that's maybe important to mental health, or what was your take on that?
Well, it's interesting. Never again will we experience this much time for self. When the pandemic hit, uh, probably the U.S. late February, definitely going to March, and as we kind of saw a serious economic decline. We're also looking at a time when people are out of work, people are on unemployment, Corona cares, and everything going on. People, I noticed sociologically there was a few things that were going on. First off, there was kind of like the panic and the hoarding, if you will, right? The fear mongering going on, and then we kind of went into a stir crazy phase where, like, okay, we have enough toilet paper, but what do we do now? I feel like I'm stuck at home, and people started getting very, very inventive, I think, with trying to figure out how to get some sort of physical fitness. I mean, the parks were closed, the beaches were closed, the trails were closed. So, I hadn't seen so many joggers and cyclists and people with their kids and folders. Like, people were just looking to do something. And now after that, people are like, okay, as things settle down, the beaches are opening, things are going on. I'm noticing people are wanting to improve themselves. And, either some people become what I call kind of like the Corona zombies, where, they're out of work, or maybe they're just on furlough and they're going to bed at 4 a.m. and getting up at 2. And it was interesting. I had a friend of mine, he says, I got the Corona 15. I'm like, what's the 15? He's like, I gained 15 pounds during Corona, And I'm thinking to myself, there's that kind of type of thing. Or there's those people that have been going to Home Depot, right? And they're at Lowe's and they're redoing their yards, and they're in businesses are like, okay, maybe we can't have a lot of people in the office right now, but here's the time we're going to go ahead and we're going to revamp the office. We've always wanted to do that upgrade. So I really look at this time as a time of it's like you 2.0, and what I mean by that is like times. And it was interesting. I was watching a seminar not too long ago, and it was one of the components had to do with how people are financially have been set back because the way their businesses were operating before, they're not able to do that as much anymore, right? So I think this is definitely a time for reinvention and a time to kind of building our businesses. It's a time to build our health and everything else. So I think this is definitely a time when we can kind of reinvent ourselves, because I certainly don't think we're going to have anything like this happen again, I hope. But I mean, it's definitely a time of reflection and improving your life, getting those goals accomplished that we always wanted to do.
As a mental health specialist, are you seeing like an uptick in people seeking family and marriage counseling? Are you seeing an uptick in people that just need some general counseling or going through more anxiety in this time with their businesses or their own health or whatever it may be? Because I know that all those things kind of converge into one space, whether it's your business, your marriage, whatever. And I think this pandemic has sort of put a strain on all of the above. Do you know what I mean? In some way, shape, or form, if you're not proactive about taking care of those things the right way.
No, absolutely. There's definitely an uptick in anxiety. There's been also in mental health, there's been, unfortunately, a lot more alcohol consumption. There's been a quarantine of more abroad domestic violence, and even in some cases, even suicide. So there's definitely been more of a need for mental health. But I really think at this time where we're at is when people are starting to come into treatment, they're really needing to deal with this anxiety. And I think it's the fear of the unknown, right? There's a lot of the fear of the unknown. So what I've kind of discovered is if we can put together a set of coping skills or restructuring one's day and getting their purpose back in place, people are usually able to snap back pretty quickly because people kind of lost their way. And a lot of this has to do with structure and routine because you're used to getting up at a certain time, you're going off to work, you come back, you go to the gym. That's been completely disrupted. I can't go to the gym. I can't go into the office. Some of us have been blessed enough to be able to work, over like a video feed, so to speak, or we're doing things over the phone. Even in real estate, I know even showing houses, there's a whole protocol, cleansing process, people going into the house.
Oh yeah, it's super fun.
Yeah, it's great. And so one of the things that, I've kind of come up with is, and if I might share, is there's 7 steps that I've kind of put together that I find that helps people be able to kind of get themselves refocused during this, unprecedented time. So one of the things that I think is really important is having a sense of structure. If we go up at a certain time, we go to bed at a certain time, we're creating that kind of REM cycle for ourselves, which is really important. We're completely out of sorts. We're creatures of having a sense of purpose. And whether it's being able to have a job, taking care of family, getting a sense of purpose back in your life is so imperative. So that's another thing that I think is
it's
absolutely. So.
Yeah. Rich, one thing too, what's interesting is that even as coronavirus has, a lot of the lockdowns have been lifted, we're finding that, companies are still laying people off, right? Like a lot of the retail sector, right. This week in particular, there was, retail bankruptcies just keep seeming to snowball, and thousands and thousands of people are still getting laid off, even as the economy is open back up. So to your point earlier, I would say that it's not just something that people who were affected in March and April are having to deal with. It's also moving forward too, like June, July, as we get into the holiday season and everything. A lot of these retail shops and malls and things that people are normally used to go to, they're going to be shut down. And so a lot of those workers are going to be out of work. And so to your point earlier, again, it's just something that the mental health side of things is so important, and being able to take, I don't want to say life, what life has given you, but just being able to kind of see the optimism and sort of these and the positives in these situations, and then also having the ability to talk to someone through the problems and the stress and the anxiety, as you were mentioning before.
One of the things I think is great, this pandemic has brought people together, but I think another thing that I think needs to be said, and it was interesting, I got this email from Kaiser Permanente about how to manage yourself. And one of the things that they had talked about was maybe not watching the news so much. Because
I tell people that all the time. I'm like, stop watching the news because you're making yourself anxious and scared and fearful and depressed. Just go on with your day, do your yoga, do your reading, do the things that you're talking about, which are probably the same things you're going to tell people to do regularly anyways. without a pandemic going on, for mental health reasons, you know, and those are the things people should be doing. Regardless.
It's hard though, right? Because what's the how does the saying go now? It's like if you watch the news, you're misinformed, but if you don't watch the news, you're uninformed or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's just like there's so many stories that are, you know, I think created, written, designed to make us act on emotion and have us feel a certain way. Because I mean, at the end of the day, we're emotional creatures, and we end up, you know, making decisions based off of our emotions. And so a lot of times I feel like as these stories are being written, and, you know, the things that we're seeing on the news and everything are being shown, and it's not just like, you know, one outlet that's doing it. It's kind of a blanket right now. Everyone's, you know, talking about XYZ, and that makes one side feel this way and it makes another side feel this way. And so, you know, through that whole thing, it is hard to want to watch the news and be involved, and it's not the best thing for you mentally or emotionally to like continue down that sort of, like, I want to say, rabbit hole, because
Exactly.
you end up like watching one news story, and then it, like, in the morning, right? Like, let's just imagine in the morning you wake up and the first thing you see is something that's just like a knee jerker. You're like, oh man, that really makes me feel this certain way. Well, your rest of the day is predicated off of that one emotion. And so it could either be, you know, a really stressful or anxious day because it was just like, it really got to you, you know. And it's hard, I think, because again, if you aren't up to date with what's happening out there in our country, and I think just around the world, you're not really up to date with anything. But it's just really hard, right? It's a really hard balance, and I don't feel like there's any balance right now. And
I feel like it exacerbates
totally
whatever
Right.
is already going on.
Totally.
Like Rich and I were talking about, there's already an existing amount of anxiety with your business. There's already an existing amount of anxiety with your marriage, amongst a global pandemic. And then when you get suckered into more fear and more anxiety on top of that, it just makes it worse, in my opinion. And that's why I personally don't watch it all the time, you know, here and there. But, you know, to exacerbate the anxiety that's already existing, I think makes your day worse, less productive, possibly going about your business, making money, whatever it is you need to do.
Right.
No, absolutely. And you know, it's interesting. You know, I I think when it comes to the news, and again, I kind of look at it as kind of like gray matter. I mean, you have to kind of like look at, really explore what is being said, and a lot of this, you know, when you look at it, a lot of times, like, it's interesting. I use a website called worldometers.info, and it, you know, sometimes when you look at the news, it'll say 12.5 million cases of corona, 559,000 deaths. And that'll be kind of the end of it, right? Like, oh my gosh, half a million people died, but they don't mention like 7.2 million people have recovered.
Yeah.
Once you say 7.2 million people recovered, that changes my entire mindset. Like, wait a minute, there's hope here. It's not just gloom and doom. I mean, right now, active cases are 4.6 million, and out of the active cases, it's only 58,000 that are critical worldwide. So that's 1% of the people who have it are literally in critical conditions. Unfortunately, the news doesn't cover that. Now, does that mean we shouldn't wear a mask or we shouldn't social distance? Absolutely not. We definitely need to social distance. We definitely need to wear our mask. We definitely use hand sanitizer. But I think it's about perspective. It's a serious thing. I take it serious. But there's companies out there like Moderna, all these other different companies that are out there actively working on, you know, an antiviral for this. So I think there's a lot of hope. I think a lot of people are using this time either to like isolate or they're taking time to reinvent themselves. So that's kind of my like you 2.0. It's like me 2.0. Am I going to come out of this thing, you know, more well-rounded in a good space, or am I going to come out of this kind of a wreck, you know, where, like I talked about the corona zombies, they're going to come out of this. I'm like, I go to work, but I've been getting up at 2 in the afternoon and like I'm totally out of shape. It's like, we could actually come out of this like a better us. A lot of us we can actively planning for this post-corona stage by being proactive in our businesses and our health and our relationships and things of that nature. So, it's almost like, it's time to, reinvent yourself, I think. So, there's always been the saying when people say, I don't have time for this. Well, now we have all the time in the world, type of thing. So something to think about.
Yeah, for sure. So let's just kind of moving into really easy steps that someone can take.
Sure.
Let's just say over the weekend or next week. Like, what do you find is the most effective way for someone to either reduce their anxiety or reduce their stress?
Mm-hmm.
Just by taking a couple minutes out of the day or something. Like, what would you say would be the most efficient and effective way for someone to find their zen and
Their zen? Yeah. I definitely think one of the things to start establishing, and I'll just recap it, is have a set time to get up and go to bed. Have a quiet time during the day, whether you're going to just read, whether you're spiritual and you want to pray. Chad mentioned yoga. That's a fantastic outlet. Whether you have a pool or if you feel comfortable in going swimming in the ocean, or whatever it is, just get a quiet place for yourself where you can have 10 to 15 minutes, maybe to start off your day that way, without any kind of media, I think would be a really good thing. Eating healthy, having some sort of outlet, even walking a half hour after dinner, 20 minutes after dinner, I think is great. I mean, people say like, oh, I'm not in shape. Well, you can probably get a pedometer app and walk a half a while from home and come back. That alone is just helps with digestion. That is a really great thing that you could do in the morning or the evening. Connecting with friends, engaging in hobbies that you love. I think a lot of times people get away from that, and it's TV is great, but like when we're actually doing a project or something that we like or working towards, it's very motivating. I think that those are some great things. But restructuring the day is an actually tremendous way to just kind of get yourself in order. But the key to do all this is, some people say, well, I meditated today, but the rest of the week I felt like crap. But did you do that consistently? It's only through the repetition of having a structured day and using coping skills that actually we're starting to see results. It's kind of like the person that goes to the gym and said, well, I went to the gym twice last month. And again, I'm not a fitness coach, but it's going to take a little more than twice that month. It's going to take that consistency.
And it's the same principle with mental health, basically, is what you're saying. Is you
absolutely
be consistent, do the things you need to do. One of the big things you mentioned is, I think every morning we get up and we automatically look at our phone, right? We're like, oh, we got 17 emails and 46 text messages, and it's like instant anxiety when you wake up. If you look at your phone right when you wake up, if you get up at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. or 4 a.m. or whatever, and you look at your phone, instant anxiety. So what I try to do is not look at my phone when I wake up, give it an hour, do some stretching, make my coffee, whatever. And it's hard not to do because most people charge their phone. It's sitting right next to their bed or wherever it is. And it's just how we're wired nowadays with these little devices. So big one that you mentioned there, I think, for me too, because I'm guilty of it too on other days,
No, we totally are. I mean, how easy it's like, oh, especially in real estate, did that offer come through? Or Skylar, even in the business that you have, somebody needs to get back to you with a contract, not necessarily going to that phone and going into the emails or going into Facebook. I remember when Corona really was ramping up, and I woke up and I never had one before. I literally thought, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have it. I'm having trouble breathing. I'm in the middle of the night. And they said, wait a minute. This is not happening. I'm having a panic attack. I didn't know. And again, that one news source was sending me updates on Corona in the middle of the night. Like we're at 200,000 or we're all these people, so many people contracted. And I literally deleted the alert and I went back to bed. I'm like, oh my gosh, do I need to get a corona alert at 2 and 4 in the morning? So that was not helpful that night for me. So yeah, getting up and maybe reading a devotional, maybe it's getting up and meditating. Maybe it's just getting up and just hanging out with your cat while you're, making breakfast or doing yoga or whatever. But we have the way that first 15 minutes or so of the day, or if you have an hour, that's wonderful. Going out for a jog, walking your dog. Let's, we shouldn't have to start our day kind of like in shock. I think we need to start our day off in kind of like a really kind of cool, relaxed environment. And but the thing is, and we have to remember, we are the creators of our lives, just not the managers. And I think what's really important is it's like, before we get to the phone, take care of you. Take that shower, eat that breakfast, go for that walk, do that yoga, go for a swim, and then, like you said, like an hour later, that's actually a perfect thing. I'm actually going to share that with my clients, Chad, about that first hour.
Well, and you mentioned social media too is just as bad as the news, because social media has all the news on it anyway. So we scroll through social media, Facebook at 7:30 because we're laying in bed still, and we're fuck, Corona. Oh, there's a spike. Oh, there's the stock market's gone down. Oh, it's like instant. Like no matter where you look, you're gonna get the news. If you're looking at any electronic device in some way, shape, or form, unless you intentionally don't do it.
I would agree. I would even challenge us, and I did this over a Facebook feed, and it was just it was almost an own little infomercial on positivity. But they said, what if for 1 month on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, we only posted positive things about the world or our life? What would that do for everybody else's mental health? It would be incredible. I'm not going to talk about negativity. I'm not going to be, especially as the election's coming up, people are pointing fingers and this and that. I don't care who you vote for, but let's stay positive. Let's encourage one another. I guarantee you that alone will bring people's mental health into a better place. So, I don't. It's let's stay positive. I think that's a really important thing. Now, that doesn't mean we're not going to be realistic about the world and that there are issues. But if we, are post positive things and encouraging things, we're going to lift one another up, rather than people waking up in the morning and just saying, all of the death and destruction and the pandemic, and then it's 5 minutes of the pretty weather girl, but then we go back. It's we have to have some sort of solace.
I think that's huge for everybody, and I think that's a good sort of way for closure, even for this, meeting today is for this next week. Everybody that's watching or listening, focus on positivity only. Make it an effort to focus on the positive in your life and everyone else's life, in the news, and only put that in your consciousness, because we're so quick to share an article on Facebook or to focus on the death toll or to do something that's inherently negative. And I think that's a huge, huge takeaway for everybody, because we're all guilty of it. I don't care who you are. Mother Teresa is probably guilty of it. You know what I mean? It's we gotta focus on the positive as humans, or it's going to keep on. I think everybody will continually go down that spiral of negativity and anxiety and fear, which in my opinion doesn't help anybody for anything.
I think to kind of piggyback on that too, Chad. I think gratitude is a big one too, at least for me.
Huge.
I find
tremendous.
I find that if I look around, things are pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Things are pretty awesome.
Yeah, they definitely are. And one of the things that I was looking at is there was something that I saw a post on Facebook about. People that grew up in 1900 went through the World War I, the Spanish flu. They went through World War II, Korea, Vietnam, right? The gas crisis, all these sort of things that happened over their lifespan went out without food. Hey, darling. And so, the fact that we have roof over our head, some food in the refrigerator, being able to communicate to people, whether in person or via media, we're all a bunch of millionaires, in my opinion. I don't mean literally, but I mean, if you have a roof over your head, you have some friends, family, some food, even if you have transportation, there's so many places in the world where that's all a struggle to get. Gratitude is something that is so absolutely important. So, you know, and it's great to, you know, be able to look at the world through that lens.
And even write them down. I mean, I used to do 10 things every single day. One of my most successful years, in fact, in real estate earlier on, you know, I think it was 2016. And I didn't do much marketing that year. I didn't do much door knocking. I didn't do the stuff that people think creates business. All I did was get in a place of gratitude every day. I used to write down what I'm grateful for. I used to write down my intentions. I used to write down my goals every single day that year. And like stuff just fell into my lap. You know, big transactions would come my way. Stuff would just show up in my life. And I think that's huge, Skylar. So thanks for bringing that up, because even just to focus on gratitude puts your brain and puts you in a different place, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, to allow more things to come into your life from all angles. You know, it's huge.
We got less than a minute here, so just wanted to say, dude, thanks again for jumping on with us today. Super excited, and happy Aloha Friday, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Aloha Friday.
Yeah. See you next week, guys. Thanks for watching.
See ya.
Bye, Pfeiffer. Bye-bye.
See you guys.
Okay.